What you feeling down for? No, I like that. I like that. Just vibing right now. Don't be sad. Open your eyes. The sun is shining. The angels are dancing in heaven. You hear me?
Wake up, people, wake up.
Wake up.
Wake up, people, wake up now.
Wake up.
Wake up, people, wake up.
Wake up.
Wake up the people, Lord, wake up.
Wake
Listen,
up.
Father God, in your name I pray. Help the people find their way. Better days are coming by and by. We can make it if we try. Come on. Wake up the people, Lord, wake up.
Wake up.
Wake up, people, wake up now.
Wake up.
Wake up the people, Lord, wake up.
Wake up.
Wake up, people, wake up now.
Wake up.
Yes, greetings family, this is Brother Jegna. We are here for another Afrocentricity Bookman show. Remember, as every Sunday between 4 and 6 p.m, we're showing you the best books, essays, lectures, all from the perspective of black people, all from the perspective of African people. So Afrocentricity Bookman show every Sunday. Please tell your friends and your family between 4 and 6. It's very important that we look for the world through our own eyes. A very famous man said that what we do for ourselves depends on what we know about ourselves. And what we know about ourselves depends on what we think about ourselves. And what we think about ourselves depends on what we know about ourselves. So, and what we are taught about ourselves. So it's very important that we see the world through our own eyes, yeah? Carter G. Woodson, who started really what we call today the Black History Month. He started Negro History Week in the 1920s. Carter G. Woodson said that if you control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his actions. If you make a man think he is justly an outcast, you do not need to order him to the back door. He will go there without being told. And if there is no back door, his very nature will demand a door. So it doesn't matter how powerful, how strong a man is. If he control his mind, or female, if you control their mind, then you control all their actions. So, we are going to continue reading the excellent book called 491 Days, prisoner number 1323, stroke 69, Winnie Madikizela Mandela. So this is the book about Winnie Mandela when she was imprisoned for over a year by the racist and sick, beastly apartheid state. Her husband was already locked up already, and then they decided, because of the power of Winnie, they wanted to silence her. They used trumped-up charges to arrest her and try to convict her, but that did not work. But this 491 days, she made journals, secret journals, memos, and she managed to pass them on to her legal team and her representatives. And this book we are reading is really the truth about her journals, what she wrote. So we find out the treatment that they handed out to her, meted out to her. This is very similar to, if you know, the name will come to me shortly. He's in the USA, Black Panther, her sister. She's now in Cuba because she had to flee from the country. And the very similar treatment that they handed out to her, Assata Shakur, the very same treatment they handed out to Assata Shakur is the same treatment they handed out to Winnie Madikizela Mandela. They get you inside there and they try to break you mentally as well as physically. So if you get a chance to read the autobiography of Assata Shakur, you really need to read that biography as well. She's in Cuba. She fled there during the Castro's time. And The US government still want to imprison her even today. This is all like 20, 30 years after what occurred. And the Cuban government said, no way, Jose, we're not going to let you get your hands on her. But they're offering tens of thousands. Because in their view, in their eyes, Assata Shakur is still public enemy number one. And they still want to arrest her. But these are trumped up charges because they tried to say that she shot policemen. But her arm she was shot in her arm. She couldn't even use her arm to shoot the police. But as you know, truth, they don't need truth, yeah? Similarly, well, our great Baba, Marcos Garvey, trumped up charges saying that he committed fraud. And what was the evidence when they brought to court for Marcos Garvey? An empty envelope. An empty envelope was evidence, you know. But of course the judge, the lawyers, everybody in the same thing, the same tip, injustice tip, they convicted Marcus Garvey. But let's come back to today. This is the Afrocentricity Book Show. We must remind you that this show is sponsored by Glass Are Us. So you can find Glass Are Us at 730 Seven Sisters Road, N15 5NH. You can go to Glass Are Us for all your glazing needs. So their phone number is, and please get a pen ready because I'm going to read it again later on, 0208 800 6663, and that is 0208 800 6663. You can go to Glass Are Us for all your glazing needs. So with glass repairs, double glazing, shelving, tabletops, splashbacks, mirrors, shower cubicles, balconies, balustrades, any of your glazing needs, please go to Glass Are Us. If you mention this show, the Afrocentricity Bookman Show, you will get a 10% discount. So that is Glass Are Us, 730 Seven Sisters Road, N15 5NH. And you can get them anytime on 0208 800 6663. So we're going to try and catch up. There was unfortunately no show last week because due to technical details, but I'm back again to catch up with you. We'll continue this. It's a tricky book to read because it's written in kind of memo form, kind of a diary form, yeah? But we'll get through the book, okay. So, discussions with Orkamp on a food question. So, a little background for those who haven't been listening this past few weeks. She's been imprisoned. She's been underfed, can't sleep, disgusting treatment. So the effect on her body was that she was sleepwalking, she's bleeding a lot, she'll sleep, she was vomiting, she's lost stones of weight. She's like really like a skeleton from what we understand from the reading. Doctors are coming to see her left, right and centre. She's on all kind of medication. They did not want her to die because how it would have looked. Yeah, Nelson Mandela's locked up in prison for 27 years and then they kill his wife. So they didn't want to kill her. But the treatment that they was kind of handling her with, it was really disgusting, okay? These people are really barbaric, but we don't expect nothing like that. So Neely Fuller, what did Neely Fuller say? Yeah, Neely Fuller, he said, if you do not understand white supremacy, how it works, all that you think you do understand will only confuse you. I repeat, if you do not understand white supremacy, all the things that you do understand will only confuse you. So let's go back. So we're on page 82. And heading is discussions with Orkamp on the food questions. I've had discussions with this man on the above question, time without number, from 1969. When we were charged in October 1969, the relatives brought us food, quite a lot of food. Beside the foods we got weekly from the church. At first, there was a misunderstanding on the question of sharing food, which climaxed in a letter written by the accused number 7. So Winnie Mandela's accused, they all got numbers. They don't tell a name. Accused number 7, number 6, and so forth. Our attorney has a copy of this letter. On this occasion, Orkamp called us all to Britz's office. I told him that we wanted to be given the right to share our food with who we pleased among ourselves. Jacob used to bring our food already dished out in dishes, exposed to all the germs and all mixed up. I objected to the exposure of our food. Transparent items, for that matter, like biscuits, dried fruit, etc., are all emptied into Dixies. I told him our relatives come all the way from Johannesburg and they bring non-perishable food to last us until their next visit. That we had been subjected to a long period spell of solitary confinement and starvation, we needed food to build our strength, because we are all generally run down. I told him our relative brought us vitamin food like Complan, Milo, condensed milk, and other tinned foodstuffs. From that day onward, until our redetention on the 16th of February 1970, we got all the food our relatives brought, whatever quantity it was. Since we have been charged now, I have discussed exactly along the lines above with Orkamp. The same question of food. On both occasions, he first said, I'm aware of the prison regulations and that we are entitled to 1 meal a day. I told him he had said the same thing last year, but I had allowed food because our relatives live so far, and that in many cases he could use his discretion in such matters if he wanted to. On both occasions, he said he would discuss the matter with the matrons, and they would all decide what to be done. The position has not changed at all. We made numerous representations to our defense. Instead, matters deteriorated. We continued starving to an extent that although I am an awaiting trial prisoner, entitled to food from my relatives, the prison doctors had to prescribe me milk and bread because my anemia was getting worse and loss of weight continued. The last time I was seen by the doctor was on the 15th of this month, when he declared me unfit to be discharged from the hospital. It is not the prison bed and prison hospital which will improve my health. It is a proper, balanced diet, not bread and milk either. I am at Orkamp's mercy, even though I have access to my defense. What will happen when I am convicted? If this is what this man does to me now, must I go and serve my sentence in this physical condition? Who else would take this type of treatment for so long? How much longer should any human being be expected to have patience without exhausting it? We have now reached a saturation point. A week before the last week, I asked Zeely for permission to see Orkamp to discuss the few question once more. Let me say, I think Orkamp is the warden, prison warden, runs a prison. On both occasions, Zeely told me she will convey the message to Orkamp. We are still given enough food for 1 meal. During my sister's visit last Thursday, the 16th, I told her to keep a list of what was given back to her and hand it to my attorney. I would also do the same. I was later given a list of what was given to me and a list of what should have been returned to my sister, but that she left before this was a fact handed back. I signed and dated a list of Wessel's handwriting, obviously sent. Reported what I said to my sister, but my sister left as usual when Scott took me back to the cells. Over the weekend, I asked for this food. I was told Wessels will be on duty Monday the 20th, but I know Wessels will be in on Friday the 24th, according to my informant. The food disappeared. The food question as applicable to other awaiting trial prisoners. Ordinary awaiting prisoners bring with them from court as much food as they possibly can, or as they can possibly carry whilst on trial, usually loaves of bread, fruit, cooked foods, which I have seen with my own eyes. I have also been taken to the visiting room, whilst these prisoners had their relatives visiting them. I have seen them taking food from relatives. I actually saw one prisoner with 3 Dixies carrying 2 loaves of bread, fruit, meat, potatoes. Enough food to last her a whole week. There were also packets, unopened, of biscuits and cigarettes. Ours are open and emptied, the containers thrown away for spite. As a result, the cigarettes dry up and are rendered unhealthy. Our biscuits are thrown on these cigarettes with toilet soap and all. This is done in our absence, and we are expected to eat food served in this condition. I have seen awaiting trial prisoners being given food. It's taken by the wardresses on duty from the relatives, searched in the presence of the prisoner, and handed to the prisoner. She takes the food straight from the visit to the cell. Our food remains with the matrons and wardresses, and the long-time prisoners amongst whom it is divided, whilst enough food for one meal is taken to ourselves at supper, so that it should be impossible for the detainee to share this with her colleague. We normally hide even this little bit, take it with us in the morning when we go to the crowd, when we go to crowd in number 17 cell, where we share as if we are stealing our own food. I have been moved to tears when my colleagues grab the bread I have, prescribed by the doctor. I give this to them every morning I can. I can do with a pint of milk a day. The bread is hardly enough for one person. The whole brig concerns himself with the petty brutality of giving each instruction about food, of what security risk is food for detainees. How is the security of the state at stake because number 17 smokes 20 cigarettes a day? How is the water? How is the state security similarly affected if my sister gives me a vitamin food or a chicken? Heading, games, handkerchiefs and books. On the 8th of the 7th, 1970, our attorney brought us the above articles, which have not been given to us on Allcamp's instructions. I have asked for these on numerous occasions from Scott, and I get a reply on all occasions. Zealy says she will find out whether she can now give us some, up to date. Zealy is acting on instructions. I've explained that the handkerchiefs are mine. What I do with them is my business. Surely there's nothing illegal about my relatives giving handkerchiefs to my attorney, who sees me every day. I have told my sister in the presence of the wardress on duty that if she can't visit me for some reason, she could take my parcel to my attorney. Health question continued. In December and January 1970, I made an application to see a dentist. Jacobs told me Allcamp said I should submit this in writing to him. I was most surprised. I expected the doctor who treats me to refer me to the dentist. I submitted the said application in writing. About this application, I followed this application with oral inquiries until my re-detention. To this date, I have not seen a dentist because the brig has not granted permission yet. I am aware that number 9 made a similar application, also with no success. Even after detention, I pursued this application with no success. Food in hospital. The hospital has the same diet as the ordinary diet in prison. When I was very ill from the 6th of May this year, I started bringing up all solids. I reported this to Zealy and asked for porridge instead of cooked mealies for supper. She said she would inform Allcamp. For a week I did not have any supper because I could not be given any porridge, which I have up to date. When I was discharged for a few days on the 10th of June, I was given cooked mealies in the cell. The same complications arose from bronchitis. I did not have supper for about 4 days in the cell. I got the porridge again when I was readmitted to hospital. Sunday, the 12th of July. I forgot to tell my defence that on Sunday, the 12th of July, wardress Nell came to tell me whilst I was exercising that Wessels said I should write a letter and say I request permission to be discharged from hospital. I do not know what plot was behind this. I told Nell that I will write such an application as soon as I become mad, but that whilst I am sane, I will do no such thing. The doctor is there to discharge me. Number 18 overheard Wessels giving a report of my refusal to write the letter to the visiting super on Sunday, the same day. This was, of course, Orcamp's underhand instruction. I suppose the doctor refuses to discharge me from the hospital. And doctor's visits. The doctor visits the prison once a week. Dentist once every 2 weeks. On such days, those who wish to see the doctor submit their prison tickets to the wardress, who does not even talk or who does not even ask them what they suffer from. And then the prisoners, including the awaiting trial prisoners, come to the consulting room without even an escort. The detainees are subject to scrutiny before they see the doctor. You report to the wardress on duty that you are not well. You give details of your complaint. These she takes to the matron. Matron reports to Orcamp. Medical diary. 3 attacks on 24th of 1269. Description of attacks. 1, sharp pain in the middle of the chest. Lasts approximately 5 minutes. 2, complete loss of control of muscle function. 3, breathlessness, choked tongue, as if full in the mouth, could not swallow or move at all. 4, with a spasm body jerked, parked, with a spasm body jerked into function. Palpitations, burning pain beneath the left breast. 6, unable to estimate length of time each attack took. It seemed quite long, soaking wet, excess sweat. 7, eyes bloodshot, whole day attacks, persistent headache and loss of appetite, bitter taste in the mouth. Wow. So, medical diary just one day, the 24th of the 1269. But she's getting pains in her chest, loss of muscle control, breathlessness, tongue swollen in her mouth, spasms, her body's jerking, palpitations. She can't even estimate time anymore. Eyes bloodshot. I'll continue without any say anything, yeah? Medical diary, 3 attacks on the 24th of the 12th, midnight. Monday the 29th of the 12th. Did not see doctor, shower, consultation or isolation, no exercise. So even though she's suffering for these attacks, she's just locked in her cell. Tuesday the 30th of the 12th, no shower, no consultation, isolation, no exercise, no treatment or treatment incomplete. So they're seriously trying to break her down, yeah, physically and mentally. Wednesday the 31st, shower, consultation, together, supper, no exercise, saw doctor, BP, blood pressure under control. Thursday the 1st of the 1st, 1970, no shower, no exercise, together. Friday the 2nd of the 1st, attacks at midnight, screaming. Monday the 5th of the 1st, shower at noontime, no morning tablets, afternoon treat, consultation, no exercise. Tuesday the 6th of the 1st, no shower, morning tablets, consultation, including De Bruyne and Westnalot, whoever that is. Approximately 10 to 15 threats. No exercise. Our matron is busy. Wednesday the 7th of the 1st, shower, no tablets. Solitary to lunch, no tablets. No tablets again. Hospital closed after inquiries. No exercise. Thursday the 8th of the 1st, minor attacks, breathlessness for 40 minutes. Sweating, palpitations, burning pain, belief left breast. Reported to the matron. Sorted tablets will give herself as from today. Friday the 9th of the 1st, diarrhea, 3 a.m. in the morning, till morning breakfast. Drank a compli. No other breakfast. Shower. Tablets in the morning. Tablets. Told to take the whole lot. Usually for afternoon and night. Explained to Mrs. Vessels I have been taking them. Told that was wrong. Had to take whole lot at once. We're together. Felt tired, unusually drowsy thereafter. Because given a blast of these tablets, we don't even know what's inside the tablets. Saturday the 10th, no shower, solitary again. Lunch, asked Wardress why we were in solitary confinement. She said she had asked the matron, Wessels, as one of us had already asked the same question. I asked what Matron Wessels said. Wardress states she could not get any reply from the matron. Further explained, she works upstairs. Told the wardress to tell Wessels that we are supposed to be together and that we also have work to do with the full of lawyers. Until 3 p.m., no explanation given about yesterday. Loss of appetite, palpitations at 6 p.m., excessive sweat. Monday the 12th of the 1st, no shower. Consultation, together. Got all my tablets, no exercise. Tuesday the 13th of the 1st, no shower. Consultation, together. Consultation, JC, no exercise. Got all my tablets, request. Is also one request was refused. Wednesday the 14th of the 1st, shower at noon. Tablets given at lunch. Solitary confinement till lunch. Clothes brought by MJ. 10 minutes consultation. Choked. Breathlessness. Body jerked in painful spasm into functions. State of semi-consciousness until body jerked. Unable to estimate how long this lasted. Seemed a long time. Shortly after the last bell rang, looked in the mirror. Eyes bloodshot. Pupils seemed dilated. Took my tablets for the night. Afraid to sleep. As if I'll have an attack again. Sat up and wrote a diary. Prior to the attack, had been thinking a great deal of my husband and the children. Also thought about my clothes with Maud and my husband's clothes with Maud. Thought about family quarrel. Telia reported all. No preceding aura. I now felt burning pain beneath my left breast. As I write, sweating excessively. Have been since morning when we were locked up. So you can see her body's going through it. She's really in a bad way. But this is the way they're treating her. This is the way white supremacy works to destroy people, destroy their mind and their body. So this is Brother Jegna with the Afrocentricity Book Show. Remember, we're here every Sunday between 4 and 6 p.m. We are reading 491 days, prisoner number 1323/69, Winnie Madikizela Mandela. This is our report from her diary of the treatment she was getting and how she was feeling. And it's only when you read this you understand what was really being done to her. Thursday, the 15th of the 1st. Report matron. I was not feeling well. Requested to see the hospital man. Blood pressure. Showered. No morning tablets given. Again. Request to see the hospital man. He never came. Got morning treatment at lunchtime. Consultation 10 minutes. Visit my younger sister, food and blouse. A visit by my younger sister, food and blouse. Afternoon and night treatment. All given at supper time. Friday the 16th. 4 or 5 a.m. woken up by severe stomach cramp, diarrhea, feeling like bringing up. Reported to the matron and request to see the doctor. Short of breath. Told by matron, doctor's not available today. Given something for diarrhea and my usual treatment. 26th of the 7th, 70. Brief memorandum of nature of complaints. Cells. We, the detainees, occupy a block of cells originally designated for punishment. It has been explained to us that this is the best accommodation available for us at the moment. We quite appreciate this problem. Due to the size of these cells, movement is highly restricted. We are locked up in one of these during the day. We almost sit on top of each other as awaiting trial prisoners. We request that the cell doors be left open to allow us free movement, like the other awaiting trial prisoners, who move freely within a specific yard. We understand that the gate will be kept locked to separate us from the other prisoners. For hygiene reasons, it is necessary in any case to keep the cells opened during the day, especially in view of the size and the fact that we are confined to them day and night. B. Food and clothing. There has been a great deal of misunderstanding between us and members of the staff. As a member of new instructions concerning our food from relatives, these instructions are completely different from those which were applicable under Lieutenant Britz, Matron Vessels, and the Matron Jacobs. We are aware of the prisoners' regulations with regard to food. Last year, we made a special representation to Brig Orkamp to allow us to receive all the food brought to us by our relatives in view of the fact that our relatives come all the way from Johannesburg and we need food to augment the prisoners' diet until the next visit. We share food normally and there has never been any danger of us keeping excess food because we seldom get any visitors on one day. Brig Orkamp then authorised us to receive all the food our relatives brought. He further instructed that food such as sweets, biscuits, dried fruit, cigarettes, cheese, etc., which is often in transparent paper, should not be opened. Thus we receive our food hygienically wrapped with no danger of germs contaminating food. The present setup is as follows. 1. We are allowed only 1 meal's worth. The rest has to be taken back by our relatives. 2. The food is taken out of clean containers. If it is tin food, it is opened and mixed up in one Dixie. I think the Dixie is like some sort of little small bucket. Cheese is unwrapped. Cigarette containers thrown away, and these are given to us loose. Often cosmetics and soaps are put on top of the food, which renders even this little meals worth inedible. The food is kept until supper time, thus making it difficult for the individual to share, if she so wishes, with others. The parcel of food and clothing from the relatives is not shown to the detainees during the day. This means that we only know after the relatives have left, what they brought. If there are any items of clothing, the detainees, or perhaps wanted to send it back, this waits for the next visit, whereas this could be eliminated by the relative simply showing the detainee and the wardress on duty what has been brought, as is the case with other awaiting trial prisoners. There would be no need to keep the list of what the detainee has given and what was returned, etc. We request that we be treated like last year on this question of food and clothing. This has been raised with Brig Orkamp. C. Shower. A special shower was made for us just behind ourselves, and this we appreciate very much. The shower is, however, unsuitable for us in winter, and it is just an enclosure outside. As a result, we have declined to go for a shower in this weather. We request the use of the ordinary prisoner shower, which we used originally until warmer weather. I personally last had a shower in April 1970 due to the weather problem. D. Exercise. We did not get sufficient exercise. For instance, this week ended on the 15th. We had exercise only once on Thursday the 23rd. We are often locked up from Friday to Monday without a breath of fresh air. I have noticed, however, that when Matron Wessels is on duty over the weekends, we get our exercises as usual. E. Sanitary buckets. Our ponds are emptied once a day. This means keeping a dirty pond right through the day and night. This is a terribly unhygienic. We request that these be emptied twice a day. F. Weekend detention. We request to be allowed to be together over the weekends, especially because weekend days are the longest in prison. Because of the situation of the cells, it does not take the wardress on duty 5 minutes to put us together. In fact, it is less work to open one cell instead of 5. We do understand that it may be difficult to give us exercise during the weekend, as the prison has a skeleton staff. G. Basins. We request an extra basin in which we may wash our spoons, mugs and dixies after supper especially. At the moment, after each meal, we wash our spoons into the sanitary bucket. And this is very unhealthy. So at the moment, the bucket that they're using to do their number ones and number two, shall we say, this is the bucket they're using to wash up their cutlery and plates and mugs and things like that. H. Washing facilities. We have insufficient washing facilities for our clothes. We wash our clothes in the buckets which we use for washing our bodies. These buckets are rusty, and some are used for scrubbing floors, so they are full of black floor polish, whilst others leak badly. Very often it's difficult to get rinsing water in a separate bucket because there aren't enough buckets as they are used for scrubbing. Could we be rather taken to the laundry yard at least once a week to do our washing properly? We will be prepared to forego our exercise time on such days. This was the case on our arrival in prison. During our first detention, then we were taken individually. It will be far better now that we are waiting trial prisoners, as we can wash together. I. Lunch. We are at a loss as to what the actual position is with lunch. We're lunching together. Sometimes we are locked up individually. At other times, we are left together. As we are now waiting trial prisoners, we could kindly be left to lunch together. J. Visiting time. We request the extension of other visitor time. We do not know actually how much time we are allowed to speak to our relatives. But at the moment, it is rather too short. K. Games, books and hankies. On the 8th of the 70, the above items were brought for us. Could we be granted permission to receive them now, please? L. Newspaper censorship. We are of the impression that whoever carries out Brig Orcamp's instructions to censor newspapers is either suffering from gross ignorance or deliberately exceeding Brig Orcamp's instructions. We accept the fact that we may not be allowed to read all the news, but what is going on now has reached alarming proportions. So much is cut out that we sometimes get half a paper with whole pages missing, articles cut out in the middle. Newspapers are kept for long periods. That, for instance, on the 26th, we got newspapers dated on the 13th. If newspapers are left to accumulate naturally, the work of whoever censor is doubled. M. Ironing facilities. Lieutenant Brits made arrangements for us last year to have our clothes ironed once a week. When we were attending court, we handed our clothes to whoever was on duty, and they ironed them for us. If we had iron facilities, we would not mind doing this on our own. We request the resumption of the same. She also furnishes us with nails on the wall, which we hung our clothes. as we have no clothes and we cannot possibly take clothes from the suitcase and wear them. These were removed from our detention. Could we kindly be furnished with these? N. Dispensary. It is often a struggle to get proper medical care. We do not know what the actual problem is, as we report it to whoever is on duty. If we are not well and we wish either to see the doctor or the hospital orderly, we have to keep reporting for days on end before we get even an ordinary tablet for headaches, etc. In conclusion, we would like to point out that it is our desire to have a peaceful atmosphere between ourselves and the members of staff. We have adhered to Big Occam's suggestions that we should concern ourselves with the defence matters only. It is our sincere wish that these matters be solved without going any further. In this way, there shall be a harmonious relationships for all concerned. Right, so this last bit, then we can take a short break. The 6th of 8, 1970, for attention of matron vessels. Number 1, for the past 3 weeks, I have been getting my tablets meant to be taken 3 times a day, once a day in the evening only. I am aware that this is the hospital's responsibility. Would you please attend to this? Number 2, please check up what happened to our games. We would like to have them. They were brought on the 8th of the 7th with handkerchiefs. The latter we got. The games are drafts, snakes and ladders, and solitaire. There is also 2 weeks' supply of our weekly biscuits, which we did not get. The only supply we got is the one received by you, which you gave us. As you know, the packets have sweets and cigarettes, like the one you gave us, and have our names marked on them. Matron Zeeley told us to check these with you yesterday. With thanks, signed Winnie Mandela. 31st of the 8th, 1970, for Matron Zeeley's attention. In June 1969, I was given the following clothes by Matron Vessels, which had been sent by my relatives in a cardboard box. 1 brown pair of slacks, 2 pairs of black pantyhose, 1 pair of winter socks, 1 brown corduroy jacket. In the same parcels were the following items, which were not given to me. A brand new pair of boots, size 8. A brand new gloves. 1 black twin and jersey. 1 black twin set jersey. New one. 2 winter panties. They were 4 originally. I was given 2 on the 6th of May, 1970, a whole year later. A full jersey, washed once, new. 4 tubes of Welder's toothpaste. 1 black pair of fishnet stockings. In January 1970, I was given dresses by Matron Jacobs. Nothing was said about the above clothes. Brig Camp has a copy of a letter acknowledging the said clothes. The other copy is with my defence, as I wish to keep a record of these clothes. On the 6th of May 1970, I was given a travelling leather bag with some of my winter clothes, which have been at this prison from May 1969, although I have been writing letters to my relatives requesting that I be furnished with my clothes. In the leather bag, the clothes marked B were missing. Please note that I was in solitary confinement when these clothes were brought to me by the security branch. I kindly request that these clothes be given to me at your earliest convenience, together with my 2 dokes, wherever they are, removed from my bed during a search of my cell. Signed, Winnie Mandela. In the leather bag, the following items were contained. 2 skirts, 1 brown, 1 check, 1 navy twin set, new, 1 red skipper, 1 new winter nightdress, 1 new winter pajamas, 2 new winter panties, 1 blue dress, 1 yellow jersey. The leather bag was given to the security branch. On the 16th of May, 1969, and given to me on the 6th of May, 1970, a year later, upon my admission to hospital, signed by Willie Mandela. On the 14th of September 1970, the accused appeared in the old synagogue in Pretoria for the last time on behalf of the defense team. Advocate Sidney Kettridge had applied to have Ramotse's prosecution set aside, as he had been kidnapped from a foreign territory and unlawfully handed over to the South African authorities. Kettridge had also applied to have the charges against the other declines withdrawn on the basis that they had a similar to the charges in the first case. Judge Gerrit Vigean declared the Ramotse capture lawful. Then he said, the final result, therefore, the special plea for the accused. 1 fails, but the special plea to the accused 2 to 22 succeeds. It meant that all but Ramotse were to go free. He was eventually sentenced to 15 years in prison. Joel Carson hosted a celebration at his house to the jubilant 19 clients. Winnie Mandela was reunited with her children, but she was again placed under house arrest, and her banning order was reimposed for 20th of September 1970 for another 5 years. According to the report in the Rand Mail, she was given 2 weeks of freedom from restrictions in error. Justice Minister Pelser had signed the order on the 18th of September after her release. She travelled to see her father, Mr. Colombo Madikizela, and on her return, she was served with the orders. The day after her release, she applied to visit her husband on Robben Island, and permission was granted on the 23rd of September. She was prevented from going when the new banning order was imposed. After intervention of Joel Colson, she was finally allowed to visit him on the 3rd of November 1970. They had last seen each other on the 21st of December 1968. So we're going to take a short break here, guys. What is coming up now is the letters. So I think it might be letters from Winnie to Nelson Mandela. Okay? So we'll take a short break. We'll be back on the other side. Remember, this is the Afrocentricity Book Show, a Bookman show, and the show is sponsored by Glass Are Us. You can find Glass Are Us on 730 Seven Sisters Road. You can go to Glass Are Us for all your glazing needs. You can get them on 0208 800 6663. That is 0208 800 6663. So there'll be a short break and I'll be back on the other side.
Hello, Mama Africa, how are you? I'm feeling fine, and I hope you're fine too. Hello, Mama Africa, how are you? I hope when you hear these words, your grace turn blue, grace turn blue. I'm saying these words to let you know how much I care, and I won't let go. Even though we're oceans away, you're with me day by day. Memories of you keep flashing through my mind. The very thought of you make my time. Hello, Mama Africa, how are you? I'm feeling fine,
love, a peace, and a unity. Oh, Jaja love, a peace, and a unity. Yeah. Come on, my black brother. Come on, my black sister. To Africa we want to go. Jaja want his children to come along. Whoa, Jaja want his children to come along. Yeah, come on, my black brother. Come on, my black sister. To Africa we want to go. Africa we want to go. I am an Afawoda Africa. Whoa, I am an Afawoda Africa. Yeah, come on, my black brother. Come on, my black sister. To Africa we want to go. Africa we want to go. Africa we want.
Mama Africa, Mama Africa, I'm coming home, I'm coming home. Hello, Mama Africa, how are you? I'm feeling fine, and I hope you're fine too. Hello, Mama Africa, how are you? I hope when you hear these words, your grace turn blue, grace turn blue. I'm saying these words to let you know how much I care, and I won't let. His Majesty is coming on. His Majesty is coming on. Rejoice, rejoice. The wicked men them running now. The wicked men them running now. Rejoice, rejoice. Men make war and cause much pain, but now is no. Rejoice, rejoice. Men make war and cause much pain, but now is the time for Jah to reign. Yeah, yeah. His Majesty is coming now. His Majesty is coming now. Rejoice, rejoice. Coming. He's coming. You better rejoice. Coming. Yeah, yeah. He's coming. You better rejoice. Yeah, 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 yeah. Rejoice.
Greetings, brother. Jegna back again. This is the Afrocentricity Bookman Show. Or please remember, every Sunday between 4 and 6 p.m. Right, so we're on part 2 of the book now. We've really read the part of the journal which Winnie Madikizela Mandela made. We've really read all the bits now. So the rear of the book now, part 2 of the book, is all about letters. So there's letters between Nelson Mandela and the authorities. There's letters between Nelson Mandela and Winnie. So we can really get a feel of what was happening in their lives. And letters from Winnie and Nelson Mandela to their daughters as well, yeah? So what I'm going to read now is really the epilogue first, because this will give an idea about Winnie Mandela's thoughts about this, all the documentation that we have read over the past few weeks. And you really get a perspective on how she perceived what was going on around her, what her role in this was, her family, and what was happening within the nation. So it's very powerful. So, yep, this is the Afrocentricity Bookman Show. We are reading 491 Days, prisoner number 1323/69, Winnie Madikizela Mandela. So she was locked up for 491 days. She has been released. She was found not guilty because she hadn't did anything rather than just being black and African and the mother of the nation. And obviously the white supremacists locked her up there because they wanted to destroy all feeling of black power, all feeling of black confidence. Yeah. So let me just read what Winnie Mandela said when, after she was released from prison, and maybe after all her apartheid was over, she was presented with all the documentation and all the journal and diary pages that she had written. So this is from Winnie herself, yeah, the mother of the nation. When the pages that make up this journal were returned to me after so many years, I did not want to read them. I was afraid. These are the memories you keep in part of your brain. It is a part of those things that hurt so much. You do not want to remember. Getting it back after more than 40 years probed that particular part of the brain that had stored it. I never wanted to revisit those times. But at the same time, I was glad that one could have a glimpse, a little peek through the window of darkness and relive those times for the sake of posterity, to be able to tell our children and grandchildren of what we went through. I was fearful to go through that again, afraid of hurting myself and hurting my children, because in hindsight, you cannot help but think, what did I do to my children? What did I do to my children? That is the truth. That was the physical experience. That was why I was so scared to revisit that period, because seeing those pages in handwritten notes and diaries brought back that fateful day. My children, Zinzi and Zeni, were clinging to my skirt, crying, "Mummy, Mummy, don't go." It was about 2:30 or 3 a.m. and they were used to these knocks. The authorities would knock at the door, knock at the windows, kick the doors in and break the windows. But that day I knew I was going for a long period of time. So I went into prison against that background and did not know whether the children would survive. I did not know where they was going to take them, because the police who arrested me never even asked me where they should take them. It was God's luck that at that age they remembered my elder sister's name. Zeni was 10 years old and Zinzi was 8. I learned after a month that they were actually with my elder sister. I already had a bag. I always had this bag packed because the children were too young to bring me clothes in prison, and I had been arrested so often. I was not permitted to have an adult at home because I was under house arrest, and speaking me was tantamount to having leprosy. So let me just interject here very quickly. Winnie, after Nelson was locked up And obviously when he was doing her work in the community to kind of bring down this white supremacist system of apartheid, she was put under house of arrest, which means she could not speak to anybody. She could not speak to anybody. And when he went to a house and spoke to her, they could be arrested as well. So effectively, house arrest meant she was in solitary confinement, even though she was in her community. But obviously this time, though, they take her and took her away. But she could not speak to anybody. Imagine that. Imagine nobody could speak to you in your house. So again, it's trying to psychological torture. But obviously, what she would have told people, that's what they was really scared of. Because, Winnie was a true freedom fighter. And they didn't want her to give her information and ideas to other people. Because it was a fear. They pretend that they got power, but really it's just white fragility. They pretend they got power, but they are terrified. They're terrified of a black planet and of black nations and us waking up and rising up to do what we need to do. So, you were infecting yourself because you were bound to be arrested. So I ended up not communicating with people, trying to protect them. This even applied to my own family. I could not even take the children to my sister. I did not know my fate would be because we were a part of an experiment, the first ever to be detained under Section 6 of the then Terrorism Act. How can terrorists make terrorist acts? They were using me as a barometer, a political barometer. If they could arrest a number one terrorist and number one terrorist's wife, then they could measure the political beat or the political heat in the country and how the country was going to react. After Madiba's arrest, that's Nelson, after Madiba's arrest, he was in prison for life. And I was this communist, in speech marks, who was continuing where others had left off. Let me just say, they always use these terms. Oh, she's a communist. It's nothing to do with communism. These people come into a nation, steal everything, imprison the people in their own nation, and then they use terms like communists and terrorists. But who's more terrorists than these people? They come into your house, they kick open the door and steal everything. Genocide against the people. But Winnie is a terrorist. Nelson is a terrorist. But because they influence or they control the media, remember, even in this country, remember Margaret Thatcher? When they told Margaret Thatcher to put sanctions against these devils, she said no. She said Nelson Mandela's a terrorist. How the hell can people break into a nation and call people terrorists? But the reason that Thatcher did not put sanctions against them, because her husband, Dennis, they're both dead now, thank God, her husband, Dennis, was earning millions from South Africa. That's where he invested his money in now. Could you imagine investing money in Hitler's Nazi state? Because this all this was. Investing money in a Nazi state. But I continue. I didn't know what my fate would be because we were part of an experiment, the first ever to be detained under Section 6 of the then Terrorism Act. They were using me as a barometer, a political barometer. If they could use this number one terrorist and number one terrorist wife, then they could measure the political heat in the country and how the country was going to react. After Madiba's arrest, he was in prison for life, and I was a communist who was continuing with others, had left off. So arresting me was the highest point in their lives. They knew that they had completely thwarted opposition to their nationalist government policies. I was aware that I was used as a barometer to test the reaction in the country. If they could take this wife, when there was so much noise, when he was arrested and jailed for life, what did the nationalists have to worry about thereafter? They were going to just sit back and rest and rule forever. So I was arrested in that atmosphere. I knew my fate was in those people's hands, and I knew no one would have the courage to open their mouth because apartheid meant murder in those days. If you dared to oppose the nationalists, you were dead. Once this lawyer came to me at midnight to find out how I could help him, leave the country. I was doing a lot in those days. The security branch happened to get this information, and they detained him in the John Vorster Square. The following day, he was dead. This is how vicious apartheid was then. Our lives were nothing. When we arrived in Pretoria, let me interject there again. Can you see how they're treating people? You disagree with the system, you're dead. Stephen Biko, head smashed in, died. But when Mandela's daughter, the other day, said on a tweet that we are not scared of you, we're coming to get our land back, there's a big outcry. How can she say that? But these people forgot who they are and what they did. They want to think all these black people are really bad. But do you remember what they did? We seem to have short memories. And maybe because they gave us this Jesus character, we must forgive our enemies. But do they forgive their enemies? Remember, these are people who launched a race war against African people, which is still in top gear today. These people are never going to stop because their theory is the black planet. They know that their genes are kind of, well, let's put it this way, those African genes are dominant genes and their ones are not. So that's their greatest fear. But they say, oh, these black people, look how terrible they are. And now these Europeans want to be Africans. Well, we're Africans. But if you look back at the pictures, remember they had benches? And this is a European beach. And this bench is for Europeans. So remember, there's always Europeans. But when they want something, all of a sudden now, oh, well, no, we're Africans, really. We're really Africans. Remember, they still got 80% of the land. This is one of the things. We love Nelson Mandela, but sadly, these people fooled him. There's pictures of him with some of these, some of the Oppenheimers and such like. And we don't know what they did to him when he stayed in some of their houses. We don't know if they used technology against him, what they did to him. Drugged him up, who knows what they did to Nelson, yeah? But he's in prison for so long, softened up with age. He unfortunately let these people keep their stolen goods. So the African people largely are still in the same condition. They can vote now, but the vote does not give you the wealth. The land gives you the wealth. People fight wars for land. Land is the key to the whole thing. When you've got land, you can produce your own wealth. And that's why they still hold on to the land. That's when I go into shops now, supermarkets, and I see produce from South Africa. You think to myself, well, black people probably work on the land, so make the money, but where's the money going to? Okay, I continue. So I was arrested in an atmosphere that I knew, and I knew my fate in those people's hands, and I knew no one would have the courage to open their mouths because apartheid meant murder in those days. And this is how vicious apartheid was. Our lives were nothing. When we arrived in Pretoria Central Prison, we were all held in a certain section of the prison. Then I was removed and placed on death row. In that cell with 3 doors, the grill door, then the actual prison door, and then another grill door. The sound of that key when they opened the first door, the first grill, was done in such a way that your heart missed a beat. And it was such a shock. You had been all by yourself with dead silence for hours and hours and hours, and then suddenly there would be a katalaka-laka, that may be the keys, and then that alone drove you berserk. That alone meant to emphasize the fact that we are in control, not only of your being, but your soul as well, and we can destroy it. Solitary confinement is worse than hard labor. When you do hard labor, you're with the other prisoners. You can tolerate it because you all dig together, you all communicate, and you are alive. Solitary confinement is meant to kill you alive. It is the most vicious punishment that you could wish on your worst enemy. You are imprisoned in this little cell. When you stretch your hands, you touch the walls. You are reduced to a nobody, a non-value. It is like killing you alive. You are alive because you breathe. You are deprived of everything, your dignity, your everything. You're 5 or 6. My apologies. We were held incommunicado. We were not allowed even to see a lawyer. In those days, we were completely at the mercy. Some families never knew their loved ones had died, even after they were detained. We were lucky to be alive, and it was purely because of my name that I survived, because the easiest thing for them at the time would have been to kill me, which they threatened every day. Oh, you're still alive. They would come in every day and say, you're still alive. We don't know if you will be alive tomorrow. They honestly believed that it was impossible for a black woman to have this kind of stamina, to be stubborn, because they were meant to break us, and they could not believe that anyone would resist them like that. When we were released, the first time I had red lips from pellagra. My skin was peeling because even when you tried to eat, you brought up, excuse me, I just had to cough. And let me find my place again. And my skin was peeling because even when you tried to eat, you brought up because you were very, very hungry. You were supposed to be a waiting trial prisoner, but they did not treat us as such. Our lawyers had to make an application to the Supreme Court for us to be brought food. And then when they brought this food, it was bread. They would break the bread. They were searching to see if there was anything hidden in it. They would break the bread, break open fruit. So you got your food in pieces, just to humiliate you and to show you you are nobody. They reduced us to such levels. They still search you in your cell, despite the fact that you had nothing other than the clothes you were wearing. 2 blankets and a mat. They had a plastic bottle and 2.5 liters of water for the whole day. This was your ration for the day. And you drank from the bottle. There was no glass. You drank from that. Then you wiped your face with that, and you just wiped your armpits and yourself. One of our lawyers, George Bezos, had to apply for us to wash. An application had to be brought to before the Supreme Court for months to allow us to wash properly. Solitary confinement was designed to kill you slowly, that you were long dead before you died. By the time you died, you were nobody. You had no soul anymore. And a body without a soul is a corpse anyway. It is unbelievable that you survived all that. I was told that most of my torturers were dead. I was so heartbroken. I wanted them to see the dawn of freedom. I wanted them to see how they lost their battle with all that they did to us, that we survived, that we are the survivors who made this history. Let me repeat that again. When I was told that most of my torturers were dead, I was heartbroken. I wanted them to see the dawn of freedom. I wanted them to see how they had lost their battle with all that they did to us, that we survived. We are the survivors who made this history. When I was in detention for all those months, my 2 children nearly died. When I came out, they were so lean. They had such a hard time. They were covered in sores, malnutrition sores. And they wondered why I am like I am. And they have a nerve to say, oh, Madiba, he's such a peaceful person. You know. We wonder how we had such a wife who is so violent. The leadership on Robben Island was never touched. The leadership on Robben Island had no idea of what it was like to engage in the enemy physically. I remember watching a film of Nelson Mandela. And who played Nelson Mandela? Anyway, watching the film, I remember when Nelson met his daughters. And you can see the daughters were their mother's daughters. They just wanted to fight everybody. And Nelson was kind of shocked that their power and their enemy, and they want to fight. And he couldn't believe. So, why? Calm down. Because he was locked in prison. But Winnie and the children, they saw the bloodshed. They saw the children being massacred by these people. Day after day, mothers crying, funeral after funeral after funeral. So these people were in a different place than Nelson. Nelson was locked away for 27 years. He didn't really know what's happening in those townships. But Winnie, man, and her daughters, they were like fire. Say, we don't play with us. I think when he went to visit, one of the children went to visit Nelson, and the guard said, you can't speak to him. They said, shut up. I'm going to say what I bloody want to say. I paraphrase there, of course, yeah? So they had so much power and energy because they saw what these devils were doing, just killing their people. And then all of a sudden, oh, we can share the land. Oh, we're nice people, we're Africans. These people never change. I hope you realise that. They will never, ever, in a trillion years, change. The only people who need to change us. We need to change. Not into brutes. We need to change back into who we are, Africans. That's all we have to do. And then it's all over. When we become African-centred thought and we analyse everything from our own perspective, in line with our values, our history and our culture, it's all over. When we've got our own minds back. So that's why they keep on brainwashing us. Have you noticed 2 of the French presidents? One French president said, oh, Africans never had history. History is a fabrication. And when they, can't remember which one it was. Well, I think the French footballers. And they said, no, they're French. They're not Africans, they're French. Because they brainwash the Francophone, so-called Francophone Africans into believing they're French. But if you notice, the Francophone Africans are impoverished. The nation's impoverished. And France, they've got an awful lot of money there. Remember, they extract 400 billion from the African nations every year because they're still tied into their system of death. These people are just parasites. But I remember years ago, somebody said to me, they told the children in Africa and in the Caribbean, in Martinique and Guadeloupe, Napoleon was your grandfather. He loves you. You are French. But Napoleon was the biggest racist in the world. How the hell can he be your grandfather when he was a racist? He wanted to kill you. He said it in his own words. So he said, me stopping those Africans is not really to stop Africans to make them impoverished. I want to stop the rise of Africans forever. That's what Napoleon said. You can read his words. But they get into your minds and he make you believe that you can only do that. And I remember I read a quote earlier by Carter G. Woodson. What did Carter G. Woodson say? He said, if you control a man's mind, you don't have to worry what he does because he'll do what he's programmed to do. And if you think that you're an outcast, you won't knock on the front door, you'll go to the back door because you know it's your place to go to the back door. And if there's not even a back door there, you will make a back door for yourself. So, psychology, people. We can teach our children psychology, We can teach our children. We have to do is to break it down so they can understand it. We have to teach our children what is happening in the world, and that these people, what's happened in South Africa, is the same thing that's happening today, because it's the same mindset. There is a race war. It's a cultural war, really. It's a war of culture. When they destroy your culture, you follow their culture, and their culture is a culture of individuality and greed and death. So you can see what it was doing to Winnie Mandela. They tried to break that. They couldn't believe that she could outlast them. So when she's still there, obviously Winnie's passed away now, a couple of years now, all her torturers and murderers were dead. Murders of her people. But I love it that the Mandela children are still there. And they take after their mother, not after Nelson. They take after Nelson because, they fight for their people. But you don't mess with these people. You don't mess with them. Winnie trained them. And that's why they had to kind of destroy women's image in our minds. Winnie Mandela. Remember, they said, oh, she committed that crime. And it's only when she died, the policeman who was in charge of all the investigation against her said, actually, Winnie didn't do anything. They waited till she died before they said that she was innocent. She said that she killed, was it Swapo? Whatever the little boy's name was. She had nothing to do with it. And a lot of people in the Nelson Mandela football team, they was all kind of informers for the special branch. So they had to destroy her image. When they destroyed the image, if not, it's Winnie and Nelson broke up. They had to do that. Because if Nelson had stayed with Winnie, these people never have the land. That's why they had to break them up. If Winnie and Nelson stayed together, there's no way those people will still have the stolen land. Not in a million years. But they broke them up so they could influence Nelson Mandela. And we can see the result of Nelson, or what happened. Yeah, we love Nelson Mandela, but unfortunately, he lived to people, How can you, if somebody broke into your house and stole everything from you, are you going to negotiate with them? Well, actually, you can keep it. You can keep my money and you can keep my house and my land and my guy. No, if that's you take back what's yours. Anyway, let me continue. When I was in detention for all those months, my two children nearly died. When they came out, they were so lean. They had such a hard time. They were covered in sores, malnutrition stores. And they wonder why I'm like that. And they have the nerve to say, oh, Madiba, he's such a peaceful person, you know. How wonderful he had. And we wonder how he could have such a wife that was so violent. The leadership of Robben Island was never touched. The leadership of Robben Island had no idea what it was like to engage with the enemy physically. The leadership was removed and cushioned inside the prison walls. They had their 3 meals a day. In fact, ironically, we must thank the authorities for keeping our leadership alive. They were not tortured. They did not know what we are talking about when we were reported to be so violent, engaged in a physical struggle, fighting the Boers underground. They did not understand because none of them had been subject to that. Not even Madiba himself. They never touched him. They would not have dared. We were the foot soldiers. We were the cannon fodder. And it was us who were used as their political barometer each time they wanted to find out how the country was going to react. They tortured us, knowing that it was going to leak to the country, and they wanted to test the reaction. Tata could not comprehend how I'd become so violent in the eyes of the police. They knew that I was involved with the militia wing of the ANC, who were called Umkhonto weSizwe, which means the spear of the nation. And they knew that I was the leader of the struggle underground. They knew our safe soldiers who infiltrated the country. But we learned all kinds of tricks to protect ourselves against them. I learnt then that the nearer the danger, the safer the place, which is the first thing that they taught in the military. It was him, Tata, who always repeated that the nearer the danger, the safer the place. So I hid the cadres next to the police station. Not one of those cadres were arrested. And they were right under their noses. If I had a dangerous unit, which was in high command and involving special operations, I hid them around the police station. And they could not catch me because I discovered that the only way to survive those days was to operate alone. There was always danger of getting someone killed by merely associating with me. And that is why I never knew their real names. I never knew their names or units that infiltrated the country. And when they came into the country, I gave them my own combat names so that they could not coincide with their names they used in the camps. And they would not know who was who. These are people who are generals in South African Army today, who hold the highest offices in the government, but they must tell the story themselves. We and the enemy hunted each other at sunset. Our day was 6 p.m. We operated right through the night. It did not matter where I was. Daybreak was nightfall. We reversed the hours in the same time. We had to reverse the values of the society. So this is Brother Jegna. We're coming to the final 15 minutes of the Afrocentricity Bookman show. We are reading 491 Days, Prisoner, number 1323/69, Winnie Madikizela Mandela. We and the enemy hunted each other at sunset. Our daybreak was 6 p.m. We operated right through the night. It did not matter where I was. Daybreak was nightfall. We reversed the hours in the same way that we reversed the values of the society. Zinzi and Zeni that's the daughters, would ask questions. When Zinzi, especially Zinzi, she was a very troublesome child. She had a very inquiring mind. Her sister did it in a more somber, dignified way. Zeni is always the princess. When she was born like that. When her father used to play with her as a baby, he addressed her as princess. That is how she became HRH, and it is still HRH today, Her Royal Highness. This is how we addressed her. Zinzi was a tomboy, and she was always asking, Ma, you know you're a liar. Why, darling? I always give the example of Tats Yusobeki, Tatu Sibeko, my next door neighbor, a Zulu from Zululand, and one of those real traditional types. And so Zinzi came in, and she was about 5 or 6, and she said, "Mummy, you said all the daddies are in jail. Why are the daddies in jail?" I said, "Because they are fighting for us to be able to live in our town. You could not use the word free because the children did not understand. They want us to have nice houses and also to live next to the shops in town." And then she said, "But then why is Tatu Subeko next door at home? Why hasn't he gone to fight for that?" And then she went on to say, "But Mummy, the other children say who are in prison are bad people. What do you say?" This is a 5-year-old, 6-year-old with an inquiring mind. Both of them would confront me with these questions so that the values of society were reversed to the extent that as they grew older, the fathers who were not in jail were collaborators. It was wrong not to be in jail. You were a collaborator. It was right to be in prison. It was not that if you steal, you'll be arrested and you would go to jail. You could not use that example. So we had to use the religious example and say, if you do wrong things, your angel is watching. God does not want you to do bad things. But that's why we pray. That's why we have the Lord's Prayer. You mustn't do bad things. We could not use the imprisonment for right and wrong, because then they would have regarded your father as a criminal. And how could you get them? How could you get that out of the child's mind? No matter how she gets educated later on in life, what you teach a child as a mother in the formative years is what sticks. Very true. That was the propaganda from the nationalists, that their father was a terrorist, he was a killer. And how do you change those values later on? People do not realize how tough it is to bring up a child in those years. They have led conflicted lives, and they have turned out to be who they are. You do not know how many times parents like us fell on our knees and thanked God that they turned out to be who they are. It was a touch and go. The child could have turned out to be a criminal. In fact, the child could have grown up to blame you. When they discovered the truth, they could have told us, "How dare you?" So Mummy and Daddy gave us up and chose the world, chose the country, chose to fight for the people, these people. Can you imagine what that would have meant to our families if they had turned out to be such questioning minds? At that point, do you know, as a parent, decide that you will fight for your cause. That is thankless sometimes, but you are fighting for human dignity. When Tata was arrested in 1962, I got my first banning order, had no name. Mandela's wife was banned and confined, and the rest of the world did not know who I was. I could not say anything that was from myself, my own mind. It was possible they did not deliberately, but my reaction was that if you have been arrested, the man must destroy what he left behind. I took that as a direct attack on women, that we were useless, our husbands were the voices, and that in their absence the struggle would end. To prisoners, if they did not have the support of their families, but would have been their end. I realized how important the support of a family is when you are in prison. When Tata was arrested on the 5th of August 1962, I decided to fight them to the last drop of my blood. I'm going to fight them, and I'm not going to let them break me. I will never let them break me. I was aware of the fact that suddenly I discovered me. I discovered, I have a no name now. Everything I did as Mandela's wife, I lost my individuality. Mandela's wife said this. Mandela's wife was arrested. It did not matter who the hell I was. It did not matter that I was a Madikazela. I did not matter that I was a human being. It was understandable for the oppressor that whatever they do to Mandela's wife, she deserved it. So I thought, my goodness, I've grown up a princess in my own home. I come from a royal house of Pondoland, and suddenly I've lost my identity because of this struggle. I am going to fix them. I will fight them and I will establish my own identity. I deliberately did that. I said I was not going to bask in the shadows and be known as Mandela's wife. That they are going to know me as Zanziwe Madikizela. I fought for that. I said I will not even bask in his politics. I'm going to form my own identity because I never did bask in his ideas. I had my own mind. I realized that, my goodness, if you are married, you lose your identity completely. I became a nobody and I had grown up walking tall in my home. I had been taught by my mother and my father that I must walk tall. I am me. I am black. I must be proud of my blackness. I'm going to read that again. I hope everybody's out there is listening, okay? This is how we must raise our children. I realize that, my goodness, if you are married, you lose your identity completely. I became nobody. I had to grow up walking tall in my home. I have been taught by my mother and father that I must walk tall. I am me. I am black. I must be proud of my blackness. My father taught me the history of our country. Taught me about the 9 Hosas Wars. He taught me of the role of the Pondos played in the liberation struggle. He taught me what had happened when in 1920 settlers came into the country and how Van Riebeck landed in the Cape in 1652. I heard all the stories from my father and then I came here. I am nobody, not on your life. No, I'm going to be who my father taught me to be. I'm going to walk tall. My grandmother, my father's mother, was one of the 29 wives of my great-grandfather, who was a chief. I don't use that word chief now, because the Europeans gave this word chief. So he was a king. He was a noble. My grandmother was the first woman to wear shoes in Pondoland. In those days, when she bragged about those shoes, it turned out that they were sneakers. But she was the first of the chief's wives to wear shoes. And she hated the people who came with silky hair, blue eyes, and those tight skins, light skins. She hated them because she had been a shopkeeper. She was the first and the noble's wife, first of the noble's wives to have those stalls in rural areas. I do not remember now what they used to be called, but she was the first to own a shop. And when these people came, she lost that shop. She lost that land. She hated them. My mother was light-skinned, very light-skinned. And as a result, we were our own grandmother's favorites because most of my sisters had the same skin as my mother. My grandmother was very, very anti-white. So you can imagine me having this grandmother with my father teaching me this history. And I grew up learning that we must walk tall, that in fact Africa is ours, and Africa was stolen from us by these people who came and took our land, took our grandfather's land. Okay, can you see the importance of history there? She was taught history by her grandparents and her parents, that these people came into our land and stole everything from us. And today they want us to think, oh, let's share it. How can you share the land with your oppressor and thieves and murderers? How can you share land with them? You must remember that African people are people of a high culture, who are noble people. Unfortunately, they've changed our psychology till we think that maybe we are kind of a ghetto people. And, we're supposed to do drugs and gamble and do stuff. That's not us. This is what these people changed us into. They've shaped us. They've changed our identity. They've made us into what they wanted us to be so they could dominate us. But when we return to who we are, it's all over. We will fix them. When we return to who we are, they are fixed. So we are coming to the end of the show. It is about 5 to 6 now. So we're going to come to end. What I'll do, I'll continue this next week. We are on page 238. This part is one of the best parts of the book, when Winnie's speaking about her own history and what she felt about things. So this is a very important part. We'll come back. And what we'll do, we'll read some of the letters. Yeah? We'll read some of the letters next week, okay? from Willie Mandela, but it just shows you how powerful we are. So I got a little bit of poetry for you here, people, before we go. Remember, this is the Afrocentricity Bookman show every Sunday between 4 and 6 p.m. You'll get the truth here. Well, I ain't going to tell no lies. Remember, we got no friends. The only friend we got is ourselves. Look in the mirror. If you don't see a friend when you look in the mirror, you got no friends, yeah? Our friends are ourselves. We cannot trust anybody, yeah? The only people we can trust is ourselves. We must unify and go back to our top shelf where we always were. And we're going to go back there again. So a little bit of poetry here from me. This is from Tony Browder's book called The Browder File. We knew not. We studied. We learned all that there was to know. We taught others. Then we forgot what we had learned. Then we forgot what we had forgotten. Now we are taught by those who were once taught by us knowledge that we already had. So we study. We learn all there is to know. We teach others. Will we forget again? So again, that shows you the importance of history. We must know our history. Because history is not about the past, you know. It's about the past, but history is about the future. Because what you know you have done, you know you can do again. You achieve what you did in the past, you know you can do that in the future. We go to other people to teach us how to grow food. We created agriculture. There's no big agriculture for us. The first agriculture were African women. When you go back to the Nile Valley, in the mythology, is Aset, who was called Isis, who was the first agriculturalist. When you know yourself, you know what you've done. Unfortunately, they've shaped our minds so we think we're something other than who we really are. We must always remember who we are. Yeah? We are the people who taught the whole planet. Speech techniques, medicine, engineering, philosophy. All these things were created by us. And when we know who we are, we know what we can do in the future. It's very important that we understand, because another way we've changed us, for somehow we think that we're criminals. But how can we be criminals? Did you know there's no prison? I mentioned before, there's no prisons in Africa. Do you realize that? No prisons in Africa. When people came to Africa, there were no prisons in Africa. Why? Not because there wasn't any crime, but crime was so low level that it could be taken care of within the community, within the culture. Europeans went to Australia because it was a prison colony. Their prisons were so full, they went there from prison colony. Why did they go to America? Prison colony. They had so many prisoners, so many criminals, they needed continents to put them in. That's how many they had. But there's no prisons in Africa. But now we think that an African is a criminal. A black person is a criminal. So what flipped that coin on its head? They've turned us into them. These people are criminal by nature. When you go back into all the oldest texts, the African is the most just person in the world. Even the Greeks said that we are the most just people, and the most beautiful, and the most long-lived. But we are the favorites of the gods. This is what they said. We are the favorites of the gods, because we are the most just people. The Cushites, who we like to call Nubians today, but the correct name would be the Cushites, were the favorites of the gods. But somehow now we think, oh, black person must be a criminal, and we'll believe it ourselves. Why? Because these people have turned us inside out. We've taken us away from our culture, so we think that we are criminals. I think Malcolm X said that the media shapes your minds. They'll make you believe that the criminal is innocent and that the innocent is criminal. And that's what they've done with the history books. They've actually made us believe that we're criminal. So if we go down the road and we see a black person, we never thought, maybe, what's he standing on the corner? Maybe he's going to do something bad. Because they make us think about that about ourselves. Some of our youths who want to fight each other because they have a similar low opinion of themselves, so they've got so similar low opinion of somebody who looks like the people as well. So that's where we are. So, yeah, if I just read that poem again one more time, because we've come to the end of the show now. We knew not. We studied. We learned all that there was to know. We taught others. Then we forgot what we had learned, and then we had forgot what we had forgotten. Now we are taught by those who were once taught by us, knowledge that we already had. So, we study. We learn all that there is to know. We teach others. Will we forget again? So this is Brother Jegna signing out. I'll catch you guys next week. Have a great week. Be safe. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. I'll catch you next week, yeah? Every Sunday between 4 and 6, the Afrocentricity Bookman Show.
What you feeling down for? No, I like that. I like that. Just vibing right now. Don't be sad. Open your eyes. The sun is shining. The angels are dancing in heaven. You hear me?
Wake up, people, wake up.
Wake up.
Wake up, people, wake up now.
Wake up.
Wake up, people, wake up.
Wake up.
Wake up the people, Lord, wake up.